Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is our 7th class on ReactJS series, and I will be covering today ReactJS component lifecycle. Right, so let's start. So guys, I have told you in previous video what is component and how we can update the component. So we have also updated some of the components information, right? So we have done all of that, but how React is doing, what is the lifecycle every component have, so we should understand that very well, so that going forward when we update our data, right? So the data will come from server, right? We need to update that data on our web page, right? So when we need to do this kind of operations, right, on the web page, so we need to understand how React is actually working, right? So what all steps React takes, which will help you to update your information. Maybe you are updating the information before just rendering the data, right? So or after you render the data, you wanted to update something else, so you should understand what is the life cycle of each component. Okay, so if you see here on my screen, so I have opened this chart. So guys, you can if you wanted to refer, so you can open this website reactjs.org, and you can navigate to state and lifecycle, and here you have this API reference, a detailed component API reference here. So if you navigate here, you would be able to see the component lifecycle. So here you have this link, this lifecycle diagram. If you click on that, it will open the diagram for you, right? So we are here on the diagram right now. Okay, so what do you see at first? So you see the component is divided into 3 stage. Okay, so one stage is when you are mounting, right? When you are putting the DOM inside your web page, like you are inserting the DOM, right? I'll come to the demonstration, right? And second section, when you actually insert it, when your particular text is rendered, or any list is rendered, or button is rendered. After that, you wanted to update that. Okay, you want to update the data, right? That is what you wanted to do on React.js, right? You wanted to flawlessly update your data, so that is called update. Now when you are taking out your particular DOM, let's say you are saying show and hide, right? So you are showing something, and based on your condition, you are hiding something. Hiding, if you see in React applications, you basically, once you hide, that particular DOM will not exist in your web page, right? Generally it happens. So let's say if user is active, then only you will see that information. Otherwise even DOM will not be there in the web page, right? So when you say okay, something you don't want on the DOM, that's when you do the unmounting, just on the very high level, right? Basically you are taking out the DOM from web page. Okay, I'll come to the demonstration of these 3 sections. So very first you need to understand these 3 things, right? So mounting, updating, or unmounting means adding DOM to the web page, updating that, and taking out. So these are the 3 stages of any component. Okay, great. So we'll understand later in this particular video what is render, and what is componentDidMount and didUpdate, and componentWillUnmount. Okay, let's quickly come back to our demonstration. So first stage is mounting. So let's create a test component. Okay, so you can also create this component outside, but just for demonstration I'm just creating here. Okay, so let me return, okay, h3 this component mounting first time. Okay, so this is the text we have. So what you see here, we have created a new component called test component. Okay, so quickly we can render that. So you already know, if you have exported, then you can import. Otherwise, if it is here in the same file, you no need to actually export or import whatever it is, because it is available here. So we are directly mounting it here. Here you will not be able to notice you are actually mounting, but if you see here, right, you are actually mounting this on the first render. Basically, if you see this, right, if you see this, you basically construct basically if there are any states or anything that you will initialize under the constructor, but as we are not doing anything here like that, so we are just doing render. So what is happening here, as and when you call this component, so it go to this render method basically, right? So now let's do this rendering on condition base. Okay, so let me do something. Let me create state. Okay, is mount set is mount. Okay, so I'll what I will do, I will use this state, right? And I'll say false. So basically what I'm doing here, right, conditionally I'm saying if it is true, basically if it is true, then render my component. Okay, otherwise I don't want this component to be here, right? Okay, I'm using that so that I will avoid that thing, right? So what is I'm doing, if it is true, then only it will mount. So now if you see the output, you don't have anything here, right? If you inspect element, that particular component doesn't even exist here, right? In the DOM you just have this h1. So now what next we can do, let's add a button here. Okay, just before this button mount component. So when I click on that, so I'll just give this name of that particular handler. So I'll say cons mount. Okay, so what I can do here, as and when somebody click on that button, it will mount. So basically it will say true. So now if you see, we have this button called mount component. So right now we just have this mount component button. So now you just notice this DOM here. Okay, as and when I click, so what will happen, as and when I click, it will change the state. Okay, once it changes the state from false to true, right, what will happen, so this condition get true, right? True, it fall under the true state. So in true state you are actually rendering this component. So what you are doing, actually you are mounting this component. So you see here, notice that as and when I click, yeah, you see this particular h3 is mounted here. Basically you are inserting the DOM inside existing DOM, right? So that is when you cover the first stage. So in first stage you cover constructor, like where you actually initialize your states and everything. You cover render, so when you actually render your button, right? So now once you click on button, what will happen, it will update, right? So it will update the state, right? There is a set state, right? You see one set state here. If you change any state, right, it will again render. Basically based on what you change, it will render again. So this step is coming in between, right? Even for update. Okay, so now you are updating that component again, right? Got the point? Okay, now what can you do, you can unmount also at the same time. So to do that, you just need to do like you no need to hard code here. So what you can say, if mount is false, you set to true, otherwise you set to false, right? So you are doing you are using not operator here, right? And here you can just conditionally do that mount or unmount component. So you can say if it is true, you say unmount, right? Otherwise you can say, so you know ternary operators, right? Okay, so if it is false, right, if it is false it will say mount, otherwise it will say unmount. Okay, let's see that. So what you have, if you reload, you have mount component, you mount the component, right? So basically you are mounting, okay, and updating, right? Ultimately what you are doing, on the update you are mounting right? Now once you click on this again, what is that doing here? So you see that particular component is unmounted, right? So three stage which we talk about. So one is mounting, updating and unmounting, all are covered, right? If you wanted to understand this update again, so you can also do one thing, you can also create one button here, right, that can handle the on click, change content. Okay, you can say update content. So what can we do here? So this component, this content, right, you can just set to one of these state, const content use state. Okay, so what you can do, you can render this content here, right? Now on change of this, like whenever you click on this update content, right? So const, so easy, right? So you can just use this and update new content. This updated on in update stage. Okay, great. So we are here, right? Okay, let's go back. So you have this mount component. So you are mounting, first you have mounted the component here. Now if you click on this update content, right, it will update your content and you can unmount the component, right? So you have understood now all three stage, right, of any component, right? If you have any more questions to this, right, you can ask me again. What is these three things? ComponentDidMount, this ComponentDidUpdate, will unmount. So these three event, right? So these three event trigger after your render. You can also notice here, you see, first we do the constructor, basically initialize everything, then we render. Okay, after your render, okay, after your initial render done, basically you have set your initial states, right, false, true, or content, that will render first. Okay, after you do initial render, then it will start your another process, like where, let's say you wanted to do API calls, right? So all of that calling or maybe updating after the render you can do inside this method. And one thing about this did mount is it will only render once, basically at the time of mounting. That's why they have this box here, you see this categorization, right, on the mounting. So all of these thing happens, right, at the time of mounting. So when first time your particular component is mounting, right, so that's when you will use this method. Okay, so what you see here, we have actually mounted this test component on the condition. So now this is the best place where I can show the example. So you have already seen me using useEffect. So useEffect is the one hook provided by ReactJS, which can help us to demonstrate all of these three, and you can also use in your application, right, to achieve all of these three using useEffect. So useEffect, if you actually use without, so if you actually use like this, so you will say console log call every time, so on every update, so anything update on your component, right, this useEffect will call. Okay, for an example, if you go back, right, if you mount this component, call every time, you call every time on every update, right? So anything you update, that means if you click on this update content, then also it will call. That means it is calling every time. Now let's change this situation. So let's copy this. If you wanted to use this method ComponentDidMount, so what you need to do, so you need to pass an empty array, so it will convert to that ComponentDidMount mounting stage. Okay, so only on mounting stage, that means only on mounting stage this particular method will call. That also when you actually mount the component, right? So right now this component is not there, right? Okay, you are doing mounting, so call every time, right? Component did mount only call once in mounting stage. So what does that mean? Now if you click on this update content, right, this particular thing will not call again. Whatever time you click on this update, nothing will happen. So basically it will not update that. So it will not call this particular method, right? So because it knows we need to call once, and we are mimicking here componentDidMount. Okay, now what is next? Next is update, right? ComponentDidUpdate. I want to mimic ComponentDidUpdate here. So what we can do? We can copy the same thing. Okay, I'll just change ComponentDidUpdate, right? So that is our next method we wanted to use. Let's say you are updating something on this component, right? Let's say you are changing this component. After you change this, you wanted to call one more data from server. Okay, that's when you will use this, right? Because that time your componentDidMount will not call, because this will call at the first time when you actually mount. So after that you are keep updating something, and every time you update something you want data from server, right? That's when this particular componentDidMount will not call, right? So what you want ComponentDidUpdate. That means every time you change the state. So this empty array, this empty array allow you to pass that particular state. So that means whenever this content state will change, you call this particular useEffect. So here I can update the text, call on every update. So it is very specific. So this will call every time, whatever update you do. This will call only when you change the content. So it will keep watching your state. Basically it will keep watching your state. If this state is changing, updating, then only you will call this. So let's see the demonstration. Reload that. So now you will mount. Okay, so component did so because right now it changed, right? So basically if you click on this update content, so what you see, call every time, but it is also calling this ComponentDidUpdate. Okay, call on every update, right? So now if you click on this, right, it is not changing because it's already updated, right? Call once. So let me do one thing. So let me create this counter also here, so that you will see change every time. Set counter use state, because right now it is not updating that, right? So let's say I have 0. This counter I am mapping to one more state here, h4 counter. Okay, I'll call this button here update counter. Okay, so this component, so here I will just say const update counter. So I'm just calling here. You can also call directly here. You can use arrow function and update your counter, right? So that is also possible. So you can say counter +1. Okay, so you are updating it. So what you can do here is content and counter. So basically if anything update here, right, call this method. I'll save this, go back, reload my application. I'll mount this. Okay, I have 0 counter. Now on content update it will call. So it says call every time when like this call every time is there, right? So that will anyway call, right? But you wanted to understand how this update is working. So it's calling here, done, right? So now if I update the counter, here is the update happening every time, because here one time it is updated, that's all. We don't have more updates to do that. But on the counter we have continuous update. You see this ComponentDidUpdate call every time. So every time you change, it will be updating something. So that means what you can do here, so whenever you click on this update counter, this number, or you can call data from server, or whatever whatever you want to do, right? Calling APIs or whatever updates, or let's say you are doing the let's say you are updating the comments on Facebook, right? Every time you update the comment, it will send to the server, right? So every time state change, right, you'll keep sending to the server, right? So these kind of scenarios you can cover using this. what is our last stage, which is unmount. So one way I've already told you, like one way I have already told you, conditionally you can unmount, right? So if you come to this, you can click on unmount, everything will get unmount, right? So for an example, if you wanted to understand is that unmount happening, so in useEffect itself, you can define this arrow function in the last console.log component will unmount. Okay, right? So what you are doing here, you are basically creating a callback method inside the useEffect. So you can create in you should create inside the component which is every time changing, right? To mimic this. So this can be done when, let's say, you are doing the live chat and one of the user is coming out of the component, basically is moving to some other page and he don't want you to chat. So that's when you wanted to actually cancel that subscription you have done it, right? So let's say you are talking to me and we are into one session, right? We have created a session. Now when I'm moving to another page, that means I wanted to cancel that subscription. That means no one else can chat that. So in these kind of situation, you can use the unmount. Or if you are moving to another component and you wanted to basically detach all the DOM from the web page, then also you can use your component unmount. So let's go back and see the example. Okay, so you see one error here. So I think we are missing something. So we are missing return here. Okay, so basically I missed the return. So basically we have to return the callback method here. So okay, now if you save, so what we will do, we will mount the component, update the components multiple time, right? Now if I click on unmount, you will see this method, component will unmount. So there might be one more situation. Let's say you are unmounting this and that time you wanted to send one notification to another user. Let's say I'm coming out of this particular chat. So I wanted to say that person is offline. How will you know that? So when I come out from that particular component, so that time I will have this method executing, right? So I'll say, I will send the message. Okay. Like I would say, this user is offline, or I can send name like maybe Rakesh is offline or someone, right? So you can mount. Okay, and then when you unmount, basically come out of that, you will say this user is offline. Okay, so most of the things I have covered in this particular class only, how you can use useEffect, but I will take separate class for useEffect where I will be also using Ajax, okay, or maybe calling the APIs and everything. So before even that, I'll be taking a class on integrating APIs with ReactJS. Okay, so I think now you know how mounting and updating and unmounting work on any ReactJS component. So you know the basics now. So if something big comes to you, or the like chat application or any other kind of things, when you wanted to call on the update, you wanted to do something, on the unmount you wanted to do something. So all the scenarios you know now. So if you have any questions further on this lifecycle methods, so please do post me. I will create another video on that and post it to you. So thank you everyone guys, and please like this video and subscribe to my channel for latest videos, right? And this like and subscribe will help me to create more videos, and your comments will help me to create more videos on different topics. Okay, please do comments. Thank you everyone. Bye.